Hello and welcome to this maths webinar focusing on subitising in the early years. Subitising, sometimes pronounced subitising, comes from the Latin word for suddenly. It may not be a word we hear very often, but it's actually a crucial skill that many of us use on a daily basis without even realising it. So, what is subitising? Subitising may sound like yet a new concept to wrap your head around, but this one is very simple. Subitising is the ability to instantly recognise the number of objects in a small group without needing to count them. So, imagine looking at a dice and immediately knowing it shows 5 dots, or glancing at a handful of sweets and instantly recognising that there are 8. That's subitising in action. Subitising has recently taken the spotlight in early education, as educators have discovered that mastering this skill early is like unlocking the secret door to maths success for children. So why is subitising so important? Subitising helps children to see, solve, and manipulate numbers in their head. While counting objects remains a really important skill for young children, subitising is just as important. By recognising and understanding the quantity of small groups of objects without counting them one by one, your child develops what is called number sense. Being able to subitise means future skills such as counting, adding, and subtracting will come more easily and make more sense. So, different kinds of subitising. There are 2 different types of subitising. The first is perceptual subitising. This is where children see an amount instantly. For instance, if you were watching 2 ducks swimming in a pond, you would be able to see that there were 2 just by looking at them. The other type is conceptual subitising. So once the children have grasped perceptual subitising, they can move on to the higher level skill of conceptual subitising. This is where children see larger patterns and break down the amount into smaller groups. For instance, if there were 6 ducks swimming, you might subitise by splitting the group up into 2 smaller groups of 3, or even 3 groups of 2. Through subitising, children can take on basic maths concepts such as odd and even numbers and number bonds. Other examples of subitising. Children's ability to subitise can be developed in many ways. Playing regular games involving dot patterns on a dice enables children to become more familiar with the number of dots without counting them. Games involving dominoes also support children with dot patterns. Using their fingers is another good way to develop children's ability to subitise. Can you show me 5 fingers? Can you show me 2 fingers? Can you show me 8 fingers? Using other objects such as interlocking cubes, bead strings, and counters on a tens frame can also be used to help to develop subitising. At the end of reception, the children are assessed against the early learning goals. There is a maths early learning goal that states, children should subitise, recognise quantities without counting, up to 5. So, how can you help your child at home? Playing board games, especially when using dice, are another brilliant way of helping children to subitise and recognise key mathematical patterns. Playing a dice rolling game, see how quickly you can say the number without needing to count any of the dots. Once the children are familiar with the arrangements of dots, you could put stickers over the faces of the dice and create your own dot patterns together. As you can see, there are regular dice patterns and irregular. You could start by singing songs using your fingers. For instance, 5 little ducks went swimming one day. you can use objects from around the house to make different patterns. Can the children recognise how many of their favourite toys there are without counting? Like a lot of early years maths, it's best learned through play, experiment and exploring. Here at Pixies, we follow the White Rose Maths for our lessons. You are able to download the 1 Minute Maths app. In this app, you will find a subitizing section for children to practice subitizing in different ways. So, for example, there is a section on 1 to 5 with random dot patterns or even using a fives frame. So to recap, don't forget when you are subitizing, there isn't any counting involved. It's about seeing amounts without the need to count. In reception, we look at subitizing to 10, and it's really important that we make it fun for the children. Thank you for watching this webinar on subitizing.